Find the cool side of the pillow. As you put your head down, you let your eyes get heavy. Picture your head as a balloon, lighter than air. It's going to float away up off your pillow. Tonight, we're going to keep going with Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift. Chapter 6. I Return Home. I went down to the shore and took one of the emperor's ships. I put my clothes in it so that they would not get wet, and pulled it after me as I swam across to Blefuscu. The emperor of Blefuscu was pleased to see me, and so were all his people. They were kind to me, and I liked them, but I did not want to spend the rest of my life there. One day I saw, out at sea, a full-sized boat floating upside down. I asked the emperor for some ships and men to help me bring it to shore so that I could sail home in it. It took 2,000 of the tiny men to help me turn the boat the right way up once it was ashore. Then I had to get ready for the long journey home. The thickest linen these people had was much thinner than that of our finest handkerchiefs, so 13 thicknesses were put together to make 2 sails for me. It took 500 workmen to make them. I made ropes and cables by twisting together as many as 30 of the thickest and strongest of their ropes. I made oars and masts with the help of the emperor's ship carpenters. A large heavy stone that I found by the seashore would serve as an anchor. When all was ready, I stored food on board, and also live cows and bulls and sheep, which I wanted to show my family. I would have liked to take some of the little people with me, but the emperor would not allow me to. It took about a month to complete the preparations. When all was ready, I set off, and 2 days later I saw a big ship whose captain took me on board. He did not believe my story until he saw the live cows and sheep, which were in my pocket. When at last I got home, my wife and children were very happy to see me again and to hear all my adventures. As for the cows and sheep, I put them to eat grass in a park close by my house at Greenwich in London. There they thrived, and they have since increased greatly in number. Chapter 7. Another Adventure. I stayed at home with my family for just 2 months. Then the yearning for travel overtook me again, and I set sail once more aboard a merchant ship called the Adventure. The first part of our voyage was pleasant, with nothing to trouble us. But one day, a bad storm blew up, and we were driven hundreds of miles out of our way. We were lost. There was plenty of food on board, but not nearly enough water. So when the lookout in the topmast spotted land, the captain sent several of us ashore to get water. When we landed, there was no sign of a river or spring, nor of any inhabitants. The other men kept to the shore, while I walked inland. The country seemed barren and rocky, with no water to be seen, and so I turned back. From where I stood, I could see our ship's boat with all the men on board rowing as quickly as they could back to the ship. They had left me behind. Then I saw why. There was a huge man-like creature chasing them, taking great strides through the sea. I did not wait to see what might happen. I ran away as fast as I could and climbed a steep hill. From there I could see what the surrounding country was like. I could not believe my eyes. The grass was nearly as tall as a house, with corn towering above it as high as a church steeple. I walked along what I thought was a main road, but which I found out later was just a footpath to the people of this land. At last I came to a stile. Each step in this stile was like a high wall to me, and I could not climb it. As I was looking for a gap in the huge hedge, I saw another enormous man like the one I had seen chasing my friends. I was very frightened, and ran to hide in the corn, and 7 other giants like himself came towards me. They carried scythes, each as big as 6 of our own, to reap the corn. I grew even more frightened. Where could I hide? I ran to and fro to keep out of their way, but they moved too fast for me to escape. At last, just as one was about to step on me, I called out, "Stop!" as loudly as I could. The man looked down and picked me up, holding me tightly in case I should bite him. I tried to let him know, by groaning and turning my head from side to side, how much he was hurting me. He seemed to understand and eased his grip. Then he took me to his master to show him what he had found. This man was a farmer, and the same man I had seen at first in the field. The farmer pulled out his handkerchief, wrapped me in it, and took me back to his farm. His wife screamed and ran away when she saw me, just as my wife does when she sees a mouse. Then the 3 children came to have a look at me. They were just going to have their dinner, and they put me on the table where they could see me as they ate. It was like being on the roof of a house. I was in a terrible fright, and kept as far as I could from the edge for fear of falling. The farmer's wife gave me some crumbs of bread and minced up some meat for me. I took out my knife and fork and started to eat, which delighted them. The farmer's wife filled her smaller cup, it was as big as a bucket, with cider for me, but I could not drink it all. Then in came the nurse with the baby in her arms. He wanted me as a plaything. When they gave me to him, he put my head in his mouth. I roared so loudly that the baby was frightened and dropped me. I would have been killed if his mother had not caught me in her apron. After dinner, the farmer went back to his fields, and his wife put me to bed with a handkerchief over me for a sheet. The bed was as wide as a main road in England, and the handkerchief thicker than the mainsail of a ship. Later on, the daughter of the house made a bed for me in the baby's cradle. This girl was very good to me. She was 9 years old, and small for her age in that country, since she was only 40 feet tall. She called me Grildrig, which meant little man, and taught me to speak their language. I liked her very much. Chapter 8. Life Among the Giants. As soon as the people who lived round heard about me, they all came to have a look at me. One of them told the farmer that he should take me to town the next market day and make people pay to see me. So the farmer put me in a little box that had some holes in it to allow me to breathe, and on the next market day he set off with me. His little girl came with us to look after me. She was very worried in case some harm should come to me, and she put a little quilt in the box to make me more comfortable. I was grateful for her company, and I called her my nurse. As soon as we arrived in town, the farmer took me to an inn he frequented. There I was placed on a table, and people were invited to see me. I did all the funny tricks I could think of. I stood on my head, I hopped about, and I danced. I picked up a thimble, which my nurse had given me for a cup, and I drank to everyone's health. The spectators were delighted, and the room filled nearly to bursting with all those who wanted to watch me. The farmer made a great deal of money from showing me on market day, and he decided to take me to other towns. So we traveled round the country, and I was shown in many towns, villages, and private homes. At last, after several weeks, we came to the capital city, where the royal family lived. The queen liked me so much that she bought me from the farmer. I begged her to let my nurse stay with me, and she agreed. The farmer gave me his consent as well, and the little girl could barely hide her joy. The queen had a little room made for me, with a roof that lifted up and furniture that was just the right size. To them, it was a small box, which could be attached to a belt for carrying. The queen had a set of silver cups, saucers, and plates made for me too. It was like a doll's tea set to her. I always had my meals at a little table on the queen's table, just at her left elbow. It upset me to see the way the queen ate. She would put a piece of bread as big as 2 of our loaves in her mouth at one go. Her dinner knife was taller than me, and I thought it looked very dangerous. Every Wednesday, which was their Sunday, the king came to have dinner with us. He liked to talk and ask questions about England. He wanted to know in what ways we were different from the people in his own country of Brobdingnag. The only member of court I did not get along with was the queen's dwarf. He was 5 times as tall as me, about 30 feet, but this was small to his people. The king was twice as tall as he was. He was jealous because the queen seemed to like me better than him, and he played tricks on me. Once he dropped me in a jug of cream. I swam to the side and my nurse fished me out. The queen became so cross with him that she finally sent him away. I was pleased when they made a little boat for me and put it in a tub of water so that I could row about. Sometimes they put a sail on the boat. Then the queen and her women would make a breeze for me with their fans. They liked to see how well I could steer. It was great fun for me. Sometimes, however, life in Brobdingnag was no fun at all. Once, when I was sitting at my table eating breakfast, about 20 wasps swarmed in through an open window. They were as big as our pigeons, and their buzzing sounded like the drones of an army of bagpipes. Worst of all, their stings were as long as my thumb and sharp as needles. As they flew about my head and face, I managed to fight them off with my dagger. On another day, a monkey came into my room and picked me up. I think he mistook me for a baby monkey, for he stroked my face gently as he held me. Suddenly, there was a noise at the door, and he leapt through the window and up to the roof, carrying me with him. The servants had to get ladders and climb up in order to drive the monkey away and bring me down. Chapter 9. An Eventful Journey. One day, when the king and I were talking, I said I could teach him to make gunpowder so that he could win a lot of wars. The king, however, was horrified when I explained to him how gunpowder works and described the destruction that guns can cause. He said that he would rather lose half his kingdom than use such weapons, and told me I must never speak of such things again. If a man could make 2 ears of corn, or 2 blades of grass grow where only one grew before, said the king, he would do more good than he could ever do by winning a war. Soon after this, the king and queen and their servants set off on a long journey to another part of the country. I went with them in my box. They fixed up a hammock in it so that I could not feel the bumps so much as we went along. My nurse came too, but she got a bad cold on the way. When at last we came to a stop, she had to rest in bed for a few days. I knew we were near the sea, and I longed to see it again. Since my nurse was confined to her bed, one of the queen's pages was told to take me down to the seashore. My nurse did not want to let me go, almost as if she had some foreboding of what was to happen. But at last, in floods of tears and with many warnings to the page to be careful, she consented. I was put in my box, and the boy carried me to the rocky coast, where I asked to be set down. I lay in my hammock, looking out at the sea and feeling sad. When would I see my home again? After some time, the page went off to look for birds' eggs, and I fell asleep. I awoke suddenly with a jolt. There was a loud swishing noise above me, and my box seemed to be moving upwards very fast. I called out several times, but no one answered. Then I guessed what had happened. A big bird, perhaps an eagle, had swooped down and picked up my box in his beak. I was flying through the air. Soon there came a loud squawking, as if the eagle were fighting, and all at once I was falling, faster and faster, down, down, down. My box stopped with a great splash. Chapter 10. The Voyage Home. After a moment, I stopped trembling and looked out of the window. I was at sea. I pulled open a little trap door in the roof of my box to let in some fresh air. Then I called for help, but no one heard me. How I wished my nurse was with me. I took out my handkerchief and tied it to my walking stick. Then I stood on a chair and pushed this flag through the little trap door, waving it to and fro and calling for help again. No one came, and I gave myself up for lost. I sat without hope for a long time. Then, as I stared through the window, I suddenly realized that my box was being pulled along. After a little while it stopped, and there was a clattering above my head like that of a cable being passed through the ring on top. Once more I pushed my flag out of the trap door and called for help. This time, to my great joy, someone answered, in English. I begged him to come and let me out. He told me that I was safe and that my box was tied to the side of his ship. He said he would send someone to cut a hole in it. Soon this was done, and with the help of a ladder and many willing hands, I was pulled up onto the deck. It was an English ship with English sailors, not giants, not little men, but people the same size as me. The sailors asked me why I had been in the box. When I told them my story, they did not believe me. At first, the captain thought I had been shut up in the box because I had done something very bad. When I told him about the country and people of Brobdingnag, he did not believe me either. I was not surprised. So I showed him a gold ring the queen had given me. It was so big, I wore it round my neck like a collar. And I gave him a giant's tooth, which a Brobdingnagian dentist had taken out by mistake. It was as big as a wine bottle. At last the men believed me. The captain said he would take me back to England with him, and we set sail for home. Many weeks later, when I left the ship and came on land again, the houses and people all looked so small compared to those of Brobdingnag that, for a moment, I thought I must be in Lilliput once more. And when my wife heard about the dangers I had been through, she said I must never go to sea again. For myself, I was glad to be back with my family and home. I had had enough adventure for quite some time. The end. Remember, you are surrounded by treasures. Maybe they're not worth a lot of gold or money, but they mean something to you, and that's what makes them valuable. That's what makes them a treasure. So have a great night. Have the best dreams. When you get up tomorrow, take a second and look around and see all the treasures that you have in your life. Good night.